don't know if anyone can hear me. If you can, say something in the chat. This is completely new. Yes, okay, so you can see me. Cool. Is the audio passable? I'm trying a completely new setup. Sound, please. Okay, so some of you are saying you can hear me. Okay, let me try switching audio devices. I don't know how this will go. Actually, this doesn't get me far enough. Okay. I'm going to go get a different microphone. You guys get to be my experimental run at a new setup. And the reason I'm sitting on the floor is I'm going to be showing you how to do some things on this telescope. But mostly I'm going to be confused for a few moments trying to set up completely new equipment. If all goes well, I have a wireless mic that will work. Stand by. All did not go well. I do not have a wireless mic with batteries. Next time. Okay, so today is entirely experimental. I have no clue if I'm going to keep this video or not. I've already tried to set my telescope on fire once. There was smoke involved. So hopefully things will go better from here on out. So my goal is to this summer do a variety of different science demos to try and help people get ready for the solar eclipse, to talk about cool new stuff that's discovered, and to basically say thank you to all of our Patreons who support us by keeping the content coming, even if it's a different kind of content during the summer. And I'm hoping it's more the kind of content that you want in the summer. And as always, special thanks to our weekly Space Hangout crew who is out there helping in the chat, helping, well, on the weekly Space Hangout crew. And I'm using new software that Fraser normally uses, and I'm realizing I have not filled the screen. Yes, I have filled the screen. Okay. So, I am in a completely new location because I wanted a location inside where it was air conditioned and where there wasn't road noise, and where I could get sunlight. And clearly, I've got plenty of sunlight coming in. So where I am right now is the new offices that the Astronomical Society of the Pacific has added to their suite of offices. And here I am, Southern Illinois, right off of Route 66 in Edwardsville, Illinois. And we have these gorgeous sunlit offices. And this gives me a chance to try and mount my telescope, and to also hopefully build a successfully functioning solar funnel. Now, to build a solar funnel, the first thing I need is a telescope. Now, in a perfect world, I'd want to shroud this. This is a Celestron telescope branded for Astronomers Without Borders. All proceeds from buying this telescope go to getting telescopes into parts of the world where they're just way too expensive. So Astronomers Without Borders provides telescopes to schools and clubs all over the world to help, well, make it more clear that we're one people sharing one sky. Now, this is not the safest telescope to use out of the box for building a solar filter. There are two different problems with this telescope. The first problem is this is a telescope that has a mirror inside. And because of the mirror on the inside, I need a second mirror to get the light out the eyepiece. And that second mirror is super easy to melt. I had this pointed at the sun for all of like 3 minutes while trying to figure out if I could actually do this from inside. And that was long enough to see smoke coming off my secondary. So first thing I need to do is decrease the amount of light going into the telescope. So I took a piece of foam, just simple, cost me $1 at Michael's, and I traced the front of my telescope onto the foam. Then I drew a whole bunch of lines so that I could get these equally spaced tabs all around it. And I traced my eyepiece hole, and that eyepiece hole allows me to let significantly less light into the telescope, and by letting less light into the telescope, I'm hoping I don't melt the telescope. This is a goal. I like this telescope. So if you have a telescope that has a nice round top area, which this doesn't, you can attach a piece of foam, and you want to do this for any telescope with a mirror. So this is any reflecting telescope you need to stop down. And in general, tracing your eyepiece is a good way of doing this, no matter what the size of the telescope. So you want to trace your telescope, make foamy little tabs, and then attach it. If your telescope is round, get yourself some sort of a hose clamp, like the kind that you might use to attach air conditioning hoses in your attic, and just put the clamp around the top. Now, since my telescope isn't actually round, I'm going to use tape. Now, in general, I'd recommend using painter's tape, but I'm going to be doing this a lot this summer. And by doing this, I mean looking at the sun a lot this summer. So I'm going to be slightly evil to myself, and I'm going to use packing tape. And after the eclipse, I'm probably going to use a great deal of goop begone to remove the packing tape from the telescope. But I know the packing tape will keep this on for a couple of months. So I'm just going to take pieces of tape, and I am folding over these little tabs and taping each and every little tab down. And this is where I really wish I'd thought ahead to have Susie in my ear telling me the questions that you're asking. Oh, not seeing questions quickly. So if anyone in the weekly space hangout can relay me questions on Slack, that might be a little bit easier for me to read. So for those of you who are just joining this for the first time and have no clue what you've wandered into, we normally record the Astronomy Cast podcast live to our audience on YouTube about 9 months out of the year. And then we take our summer off and go on hiatus, and that means no more podcasts for the summer. This summer, we're doing something a little bit different thanks to our supporters over on Patreon, and I'm actually going to use the summer to record some videos of different things you can do to do astronomy. And I'm going to say hi to the folks that I see over on our Slack channel. Hi John, hi Zach. If you want to be part of the Weekly Space Hangout crew, well, give it a Google. They have a website with lots of easy information to tell you how to join. And I'm going to say hello to people over on the YouTube channel as I discovered that packing tape does not want to stick to this telescope, so today might be slightly messy. We're going to find out. So over on YouTube, I see Paul Gracie, Zach Cody, Chuck Tomasi, who's telling me nail polish is acetone-based and is a good glue residue remover. That is something I may need in a little while. I see Thomas Traniker, Duck Sandwich, Astra B, Toby Tester, Paul Gracie. Okay. And I think that's everyone. There's Nancy Graziano. I think we have Susie Murph out there somewhere. Bill Bruin. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. If not, welcome to the rich history of people whose names I have mispronounced. And I'm sorry. Okay. Now, taping. So as I said, the reason that I'm doing this is because I need less light going into my telescope because I'm going to look at the sun. And I already tried to melt my telescope once. I don't want to try and melt it again. So taping all these little tabs of foam down. Okay. So I'm going to call this good enough for now. So what I've done is I've taped a piece of foam on the front of my telescope with an off-center circle. That off-center circle is going to let light into the telescope. So I see Zach asking or relaying the question, what is the frame of the telescope made of? I think this one's aluminum. It sounds like aluminum when I tap it with my finger. That's a lame answer. It's made by Celestron. Go check it out on their website. Like I said, it's the Astronomers Without Borders One Sky Telescope by Celestron. Proceeds from this telescope go to benefiting Astronomers Without Borders educational mission. So I feel okay recommending this telescope because A, it works, B, it's a good cause. Okay, so I've now stopped down my telescope. I'm gonna add a little bit more tape here. So thing one is make sure you don't melt your telescope. Now thing two is going to be to make sure you don't melt your eyeballs. Melting of eyeballs is bad. You might want them later. Now if you don't want to use your eyeballs later, don't do what I'm about to suggest and melt your eyeballs. That's fine. We don't judge. Your doctor, your insurance company, your spouse, they might judge. I'm a little bit more sarcastic without Fraser, I guess. So anyways, the next thing I'm going to do is make it so that I don't burn my eyeballs. So normally I'd use an eyepiece to look through the telescope, look at whatever star I was trying to look at. The sun is way too close of a star to look through an eyepiece at. So what I want to do is instead of looking through the eyepiece at the sun, I want to take the image that this is capturing and project it. And what I'm going to project it on is just a piece of paper. So what I have here, because I tested this ahead of time while trying to melt it, what I have here is a simple little funnel. I've written the date of the eclipse on a piece of paper that I pre-cut and taped onto the funnel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the eyepiece in. And you can see I've trimmed the funnel so that the eyepiece fits nicely inside. There's the inner view. You can kind of see black on black eyepiece on the inside. And what will happen now is the sunlight will go onto the piece of paper. I will look at the piece of paper instead of through the eyepiece and hopefully not burn my eyes out. Now, since I'm an adult, I trust myself to generally not stick my head between the front of the telescope and the entrance to the telescope, so I'm going to be lazy and not baffle this tube. If you are working with children, if you are working with the public, if you are doing this with anyone other than yourself and other smart people, what you really need to do is baffle your tubes if you have an open truss like I do. The reason is people will stick their head in, they will burn their eyes out. Again, you're welcome to do that if you want to. We don't judge, but it's probably not a good idea. So I now have the front of my telescope mostly obscured. I now have my eyepiece covered up. I have sunlight. Wow, my arm completely disappears in the camera when it goes into the sunlight. I'm now going to stick the telescope instead of my arm into the sunlight. And the way I'm going to figure out if I'm looking at the sun is I'm going to look at the shadow. So let's see if I can get a better view of this. So this could go catastrophically wrong, internet. This is why this is a video that I told you we may kill. So what I'm doing now is I'm very carefully rotating my stand and not trying to overbalance anything. Okay, so there's the telescope beautifully sitting in the sun, in the air conditioning, in the office. So this is another strong positive to doing what I'm doing. You can stay in the air conditioning. So I'm going to move this around until the shadow on the back side of the telescope is as small as I can make it. And I'm going to cheat by also looking to make sure that the sunlight on the inside is actually like lining up. Okay, so what I just discovered is a moment of stupid. So if any of you out there can see this, there's the shadow of my window pane is currently obstructing the sunlight going into the telescope. That's why I stuck my head in there to look, was to figure out why the light wasn't coming out. So things to be aware of when you're working indoors. Okay, so I just moved the telescope a little bit, and now I'm going to try this again. So I'm actually looking at the foam right here, and I can see the sunlight on the foam, and I'm moving the telescope until the sunlight hits the mirror in hopes that I can get an image coming out there. Now, unfortunately, one thing I didn't take into consideration doing this is the funnel's pointed this way. But I can fix this because it's a Dobsonian telescope. There we go. Okay, try 2, different orientation. Still bad because now the sunlight's going to be on the floor, but I think I can figure out how to get the camera down there. Okay, so lining things up again, lining things up again. Okay, it turns out I can't see to line it up on this side, so I'm going back to the way it was, and I'll try and move the camera. As I said, today might be a total failure. This is why you practice, practice, practice for the eclipse before the eclipse. Because this stuff, everything from trying to line things up to trying to find the sun, it's easier to do with practice, and it's actually kind of hard to do. So I can see I have the sun over here, and I'm going to try really hard to figure out how to not break everything and get you the ability to see that. Okay, so pardon the shake. I hope I'm at least amusing all of you, if nothing else. So I'm now uncabling my camera. Here's where I make you drunk. Moving the camera, sorry. Still moving the camera. Still trying to move the camera. Did I mention I hope I'm at least amusing all of you? Camera is stuck in cable tray, setting camera down, fighting with cable tray. Okay, untangling camera. So the moral of the story is, if you ever need to move your camera, do not wire it nicely into bundled cables. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Oh man, I have to move my computer. Okay, there we go. I'm back. Yes, we'll edit this part out later. We may actually re-record all of this later because really this was an amusing failure. Okay, so here we go. This is the top of the telescope, and now we learn exactly how long my cable is. Aha, almost long enough. Let me move my computer a little bit more. Okay, there we go. go, now I can see it. Sun, little tiny sun. I have now projected a tiny, tiny sun onto the front of this piece of paper. Okay, wow, that was fascinating. Okay, putting my camera back. Yeah, we're definitely going to re-record this. I appreciate all of your patience and stuff and things, but this was not the best recording I've ever done as I work out the technological difficulties. So I see that Quadlibet is saying, but is this the whole sun? And this is actually what I was going to talk about next, is you can get different size suns on your piece of paper depending on how long your funnel is. So the issue is the sunlight takes time to expand out. The image that comes out of your eyepiece is designed for your eyeball, which you're trying not to melt. So when the image first exits the eyepiece, it's the size of your pupil. It's matched to your pupil, so it's only a few millimeters across. As the image comes up through the funnel, depending on how you focus it, it gradually spreads out. And as it gradually spreads out, you end up with a bigger and bigger image. Now, I got a little tiny funnel because that's what I found at Home Depot and I was being lazy. Here are some other things that we can try. And by we, I mean, yes, I'm going to come back and do this again with you guys, and maybe some of you can follow along next time. So what we can do is, I've seen people also do this using like 36-inch Slurpee cups, or 36-ounce Slurpee cups. I've seen people do this with pieces of PVC pipe, all that just help you get more and more distance and spread the sun out more and more as it goes. So here are some different things that you need to know also to help you do this. First of all, sun moves. So you will have to, throughout the experience, move your setup. It also does need a certain amount of focusing. And I'll move the camera again in a moment to show you what happens as I focus. It turned out I needed to move it out to get it slightly more in focus. So grabbing camera, sorry, drunkenness occurs. There we go. So here you can see I have a slightly more in focus image. Trying to get my camera to focus that close. Hold on. Come on, camera. You can do it, camera. There we go. So as I move the paper in and out, you can see it gets bigger. And what's focusing it is actually the lens. So come on, there we go. So you focus with the eyepiece and then you make it bigger and smaller using the distance that you can get away, from your telescope. Okay, so I see Noel Rubenthal asking, what if you attach the funnel to binocular lenses? The aperture you have isn't much bigger than the intake lens of the binoculars. So yes, you can totally do this with binoculars as well. And in fact, some of you may remember back when we had the Venus Transit event a few years ago, back in summer of 2012. Almost exactly 5 years ago, actually. So back in 2012, when we did the Venus Transit, the way we did the Venus Transit, because I am eternally lazy, is I actually streamed from the spare bedroom in my house, had my binoculars up on a tripod, and I projected the sunlight onto a wall. Now I can actually do that here because I have a wall. Now the sun is about to be at a very strange angle. So let me see what I can do to project onto a wall. So, So here I'm projecting onto a piece of paper first, because I can make the paper like actually perpendicular to the eyepiece. And I'm steering, again, do not look through the eyepiece if you like your eyeballs. If you don't like your eyeballs, you can look through the eyepiece. but ask the people who love you first, because they will be the ones taking care of you when you are blind. So I'm just looking inside for making sure that the sunlight, there we go. There's the sun. Okay, so I have sun at a weird angle on the wall right now. There we go. So you can see the sun, it's slightly out of focus. It's very crooked because the wall isn't perpendicular. There. Now it's in focus. So I have an in focus, I don't have an in focus camera. Come on, camera. You can do it, camera. My camera is giving up. Come on, camera. Oh, wow, that's a new failure mode. There we go. Camera is starting to understand life again. So I'm projecting the sunlight onto the wall. It's in focus because I adjusted the eyepiece. And this way, I can safely share the view of the sun, and it's nice and big, and I can share it with a bunch of people. Now, again, the way I'm projecting it right now, not safe to do if you have kids, members of the public you don't trust, crazy people around, like your drunk Uncle Bob, because I know some of you are going to be doing this at barbecues. This is because they can stick their eyeball in here and melt their eyeball. And I'm just going to keep repeating this. Do not look through the eyepiece if you like your eyeballs. Projecting it on the wall, yes, you could see sunspots this way. You can see Mercury transits this way. You can watch eclipses this way. It's a great way to share the experience, except for the safety issue of you can stick your eyeball in there. So if you're in a situation where you're not worried about people sticking their eyeball in there, go ahead and project it this way instead of by using the funnel. Now, you can see how much larger this image of the sun is, and that's just because the light had more distance to spread out across. So make your sun funnel as long as you want and get a bigger and bigger image. And yeah, have fun with it. So I'm looking to see if there's any other questions out there. Apparently things are going too fast. Does this harm your eyepiece? No, not if they're glass. Now, if you have a Galileo scope, do not do this with Galileo scope eyepieces. Galileo scope eyepieces, in order to keep the price down, are made of plastic. They will melt. Don't do this with Galileo scope eyepieces. So here are the 3 key things to keep you and your telescope safe. Do this only with glass and metal telescopes. If you have a reflecting telescope with a mirror, stop down your aperture like I did with this piece of foam so that less light is going through and you don't melt your secondary mirror or anything else for that matter. And then the third is make sure no one can stick their eyeball in front of the eyepiece and burn their eyeballs out, because again, we don't judge, but those around you might. So try not to burn out eyeballs. I see Adam Synergy saying that his eyeballs will be safely watching the eclipse online. I hope you're right. So one of the things that I'd like to make sure everyone out there is aware of is we're kind of expecting the entire American infrastructure to break on the day of the eclipse, because the solar eclipse is going to be visible from middle Mexico as a pretty good eclipse all the way up through almost the northernmost reaches of Canada. This is, when I say America, I mean like North America. Multinational, we all get a little bit of the view. Folks like me who are lucky enough to live along the center line, we get a total eclipse. But because the partial phases are seen by so many people in so many different places, everyone's going to be out there Facebook Living, Snapchatting, Instagramming, sharing their photos, sharing their experience until the internet goes down. And this is the kind of thing where we're actually working, astronomers are actually working with like the National Transportation System, Homeland Security, trying to figure out how to prevent everyone sharing the eclipse from like breaking 911. So there's honest concerns right now that like it will be impossible to make a cell phone call on the day of the eclipse. So if you're planning to watch it on a feed, don't plan to watch it on an internet feed. Try and get a satellite uplink to NASA. NASA will be broadcasting this from multiple sites in the US. They have satellite hookups. So it will be going out through satellite. NASA TV on your cable should be fine. NASA TV on your satellite should be fine. I wouldn't trust the internet on the day of the eclipse. So yeah. So I see people saying they're in Portland. Yes, Portland is an excellent place to be. I see Navi Faris 64 is saying that they're going to drive 1,000 miles to see it. Be aware, we also expect like all the highways to be complete gridlock. Because especially in the East Coast and the West Coast, if you think about how many million people are on a normal day, only like 3 to 6 hours drive from the eclipse center line, we're thinking a bunch of those people are probably going to make the decision Sunday night, hey, let's get up early tomorrow and drive to South Carolina and to Nashville, to all of these different cities where you can see, and states where you can see the eclipse. And as they try to get there at the last minute, there's going to be massive traffic jams. So what I'm personally recommending is wherever you plan to be on Monday to see the eclipse, get there Friday. Spend a couple of days hanging out, enjoying the experience. Some sites like Carbondale, Illinois have festivals planned. Carbondale is actually going to be doing a science fiction comic book convention for 2 days. So go enjoy the experience for a couple of days and then try to drive home in the massive traffic. But if you can stay until Tuesday, do that also. So I'd say plan to leave Friday, plan to drive home Tuesday, and avoid the worst of it. So I see Guido saying from Gordon Dewey's, project through number 14 welder's glass would protect Uncle Bob. Oh, project through, sorry, I misread that. Project through number 14 welder's glass. We actually recommend that people don't use welder's glass because imperfections in the glass can lead to the burning out of eyeballs. Now there are large numbers of Eclipse glasses available out there for low cost and no cost. Check with your local library, check with your local schools. A lot of us are going to be giving away glasses at various events. If you happen to be in the St. Louis area, I will be the first Friday of the month in August at the St. Louis Science Center handing out Eclipse glasses to anyone who gets a little bit too close. So see if you can get these filters that are actually made to block sunlight, unlike welder's glass. And just take that added extra little bit of safety. If you go to the eclipse.aas.org or eclipse.nasa.gov, both of these sites actually list ways you can get Eclipse glasses and places we know that are selling them that are actually like up to standards, because some of the ones out there for sale will actually let you burn your eyes out. So you hear a recurring theme here. Eye safety is key. It is one thing to like momentarily glance at the sun and end up seeing red spots, but the red spots are annoying because it means that you can't really enjoy the eclipse because you're seeing red spots instead. But if you keep looking and you keep looking over the multi-hour duration of the eclipse, you're going to do permanent harm to your eyes. So be safe out there. Share the sun safely. Don't burn your eyes out. So I see Canopus06 saying Bada, like maker of eyepieces. Yes, Bada solar filters are one of the good ones. I actually have Bada filters for my binoculars. So you can get good filters for binoculars, you can get good filters for telescopes, you can get good filters for eyeballs. Filters are a great way to enjoy this. Oh, I just see that a question scrolled off the top about reflectors versus refractors, I think. So you can use a reflecting telescope or a refracting telescope. With a refracting telescope, if you have all glass lenses, you don't need to worry about stopping down the aperture like I did here. What you can do instead, let me adjust the camera so it's a little bit better centered. So what you can do if you have a refracting telescope that is all lenses is get yourself a pizza box, cut a hole in the front of the pizza box that is the same size as the front of your telescope. Mount the pizza box on your telescope. So like literally take the entire box, eat the pizza, or preferably actually go get a pizza and ask if you can have an extra empty box and tip lint nicely. Take that empty pizza box, and if you cut a hole all the way through that will fit on the front of your telescope, you now have a nice solid sun protection unit, because you can actually, when you do that, make sure that you can't accidentally look up the front of your telescope at the sun. Build the sun funnel on the other end, and you have a great way to use your refracting telescope for this exact same kind of thing. So I see folks saying Thousand Oaks Optics, they're good, so is Rainbow Symphony. There's a bunch of really good companies out there. So I'd reach out to someplace like Oceanside Photo and Telescope. They have given us no money. They are not a supporter of the show. They are a company that has prevented me from spending more money than I needed to buying things, because they give good advice. If you have a telescope, if you have binoculars and you want filters, give them a call, reach out to them on the internet, and see what they'd recommend for your particular device. They'll take care of you. So that's basically what I had to say, what I had to do. I want to refilm this video on a day when it is less confusion than what happened today. And I actually have another demo that I need to record for CosmoQuest. So I'm probably going to come back online tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, maybe a little bit later in the day when the sun is more directly coming into the room. So go ahead, subscribe to Astronomy Cast on YouTube, and that will get you an alert when we're going live. And I'm going to record this again with less things going wrong, and hopefully more sun streaming directly into the room, and maybe even a remote mic so you can hear me a little bit better. And I'll try again, and maybe I'll record a second video as well tomorrow demonstrating one of CosmoQuest's new neat ways of teaching about cratering. And yeah, so we'll try this again, and just remember, don't melt your eyeballs unless you want to. Don't melt your telescopes, period. That's just a waste of a telescope. And thanks for joining in, and feel free to laugh at me about how badly this went today. I appreciate your patience while we figure everything out. Now I'm going to hang around for a couple more minutes here and see if there's any more questions, any more feedback. I know the audio wasn't great. Like I said, I'm going to work on getting a cordless mic to try. So is there any other quick questions out in the audience? I'm waiting for the lag to catch up so you have time to type. Thank you, everyone, for saying thank you. Thank you for your patience. Trying to rescue my mouse from underneath I have, like, you don't want to see what is behind the screen from trying to free my camera. Oh, there's a question about entangled photons. I'm going to pass on that one today. I may answer that one tomorrow, but there was a brand new experiment that before I want to answer that question, I want to read about the experiment so I can answer it a little bit better. Okay, so everyone, thumb up the video, subscribe to Astronomy Cast, and we will try this again, hopefully with a little bit less chaos and a little bit more audio amplification, and hopefully everything will go great. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, no matter where you are in the world, and remember, observe safely. Thanks, everyone. I have no clue how to stop this recording. Stop streaming, that would be the button.